go. Hustle hard, hustle every single day. I'll be making moves till I'm buried in my grave. To the system, I don't wanna be a slave. I've been doing shit my way, or the highway.
A constitutional crisis. White supremacist authoritarianism in America. White people in America have always been intentional about domination and control. Not all of them, but enough. Enough to shape laws. Enough to shape policy. Enough to decide who gets power and who gets pain. That is not an accident, it is the architecture of the United States. And one of the greatest mistakes we make as African people is not understanding the difference between bigotry and racism. Bigotry is personal. A bigot hates you because you're black. A bigot thinks you're inferior. A bigot is emotional. They cling to the ugliest stereotypes. You're lazy. You're dangerous. You're not as smart. It's noisy. It's petty. It's small. Racism is different. Racism is not personal. Racism is not emotional. Racism is business. Racism says, I don't care that you're black. I don't hate you. I might even like you. I'll party with you, smoke with you, even date your sister. But when it comes to power, to land, to wealth, to housing, to healthcare, to contracts, to opportunity, I want white people in control. Always. That's not about feelings. That's about infrastructure, zoning laws, bank loan policies, who gets the government contract, who controls the legislative map. Racism doesn't need to raise its voice, because it already owns the room. You can meet a white person with no bigotry in their blood, no hatred, no stereotypes, and still they will vote, speak, and move in ways that protect white dominance. That's why we say, don't confuse a white person's personal feelings with their political reality. Racism is a team sport. The question isn't whether they like you. The question is whether they believe black people should have control over our resources, our communities, our futures. And here's the proof right now in plain sight. In Texas, Republican lawmakers have rammed through a redistricting bill designed to lock in political control for the next decade. When challenged, they haven't engaged in honest debate or accountability. Instead, they've wielded procedural tricks, quorum-busting threats, and even the machinery of state enforcement to force compliance. Their goal is not fair representation. Their goal is to ensure the levers of power remain in the same hands, their hands, no matter what voters want. This is racism without the slur, without the hood, without the burning cross. It's the cold efficiency of power protecting itself. And it's why America is in a constitutional crisis. Not because the system is broken, but because the system is being used exactly as intended, to deny real self-determination to those outside the circle of power. We cannot beg this system to treat us fairly. We must build our own infrastructure, our own housing, healthcare, finance, and governance, under black control. Only then do we step out of the cycle where laws are written to keep us at the margins, and maps are drawn to make sure we can never redraw the future. The BIT Worker Housing Covenant. A permanent agreement for collective security and stability. Purpose. To ensure that housing restored and owned by the Black Infrastructure Trust, BIT, is permanently affordable, tied to community labor and governance, and protected from private speculation or displacement. 1. Ownership and stewardship. All properties acquired under this covenant are owned by the BIT Land Trust in perpetuity. Title to the land and building cannot be sold, transferred, or mortgaged without a 2/3 vote of the BIT National Assembly and consent of the local collective. Residents hold a permanent occupancy lease that can be inherited but not sold for profit. 2. Eligibility. Residents must be active BIT members contributing labor, governance participation, or both. Eligibility is prioritized for workers in BIT-owned enterprises, community defense units, childcare cooperatives, or other essential roles. Members may remain in housing during temporary unemployment, provided they are actively engaged in retraining or community service. 3. Affordability and contribution. Housing costs are calculated to cover maintenance, taxes, and collective reserves, never to generate profit. Contributions are income-based, ensuring no member pays more than 25% of household income for housing. Sweat equity, documented hours of community labor, may be credited toward monthly housing costs. 4. Collective responsibility. Residents are co-stewards of the property, responsible for upkeep, security, and participation in community planning. Major repairs and renovations are planned and voted on collectively. Vacant units are filled based on collective needs, not outside market demand. 5. Anti-displacement clause. No resident can be evicted except in cases of repeated non-participation without cause, violence or harm against other members, Destruction of property without restitution. In all cases, a mediation process is required before eviction is considered. 6. Interlocking protections. All worker housing covenant properties are part of a community defense network, ensuring safety from state-sanctioned or vigilante violence. Properties double as nodes for BIT's economic and political activity, meeting spaces, storage for cooperative goods, or hubs for childcare and healthcare services. Why this matters? This covenant takes the abandoned property left by white flight, urban renewal, and economic sabotage, and turns it into a non-negotiable asset of the community. It removes the two main tools used against us: speculation, which drives gentrification and displacement; instability, which keeps us vulnerable and divided. It makes housing a guaranteed right inside BIT, regardless of whether the US ever grants that same guarantee. If you're still here, it's because something real hit you. But understand this: real talk ain't here to entertain, go viral, or win likes. We don't move for algorithms, we move for liberation. So don't just listen. Reflect, connect, build. I'm not looking for clicks, I'm looking for commitment. Because the truth is, the time for performative outrage is over. What I'm here to do is connect with the ones ready to move, ready to think differently, build differently, and live free on our own terms. This is about one thing: liberation under Black management. Until the next episode, stay sharp, stay building, and stay Black on purpose.